Hello, my name is Terrence Steiner. I am 51 years old, currently living in West Virginia. My experience at North Carolina School of the Arts began in the summer of 1983 when I was 12 years old. I was in the modern dance field. Richard Kutch took a liking to me that summer. I thought it was because I was talented and gifted, and I looked up to him. And uh, he told me at the end of that summer session, keep working hard, get a little older, keep improving, we'll get you in the program. So I did. I returned home to Panama City, Florida, changed dance studios to get more rigorous professional training, and followed his guidance. At the same time, during that year, Richard Kutch, would be sending me postcards from Istanbul with teddy bears on them and calling my family's home. And I thought it was gentle words of encouragement. I know differently now, but I went back the following summer. Richard Gain was there that summer. Um, and then he took a shine to me, and they said, we're going to get you into the program. At the time, it was a college program, to my understanding, and I was to be invited. I never auditioned. Um, and I was to be the youngest to ever go into the program to see if a child of my years could handle the abstraction of modern dance. So, whatever, there were phone calls during that time period when I was in Panama City, awaiting word on my entrance to School of the Arts. Um, I began to see something was wrong. Even in my childhood, I knew something was wrong. Uh, my parents, of course, were enamored, but and as was I, because I this is what I wanted to do since I was a child, was be a professional dancer. I began to ride my bike down to the corner store and call them collect from the payphone because I was embarrassed about getting the phone calls at my house, my parents' house, and I just felt dirty. Um, I was invited into the school. I did not audition. I showed up in winter semester of 1984 into 85. Um, we had bikini class, we had touching and fondling, we had crotch jumps, but I just considered this was par for the course. Um, Gain took a further interest in me at that point in time, and I guess looking back, it was kind of a flirtation. I don't know, but he cast me in a piece called Mute Song about a father and son, very hands on, and we began working late nights and late afternoons in the studio on this piece. And that's where the handoff happened. Uh, I've learned recently that Richard Kutch told Eula Pondy that Gain couldn't get the little boys. Um, so he had to procure the boys for him. So looking back, I feel like I was kind of factory farmed like salmon and handed over to Gain as like a treat. So Gain began to take me out after rehearsal. The first movie we saw was The Money Pit with Shelley Long and Tom Hanks, and his hands were all over me in the theater. And I used to repeat in my head, this is what dads do. This is what dads do. This is what dads do. This is normal. This is normal. It's all okay. Um, the Peace Mute song kind of made me a little bit of a child star. And so there was that element going in, but there was the constant rip and tear between Gain and taking me out and taking it to the line, but never going over unless I acquiesced, and I wouldn't acquiesce um, because I was far too intelligent to know that something nefarious was going on. We were out late on the last day of school at and they had the Beaux Arts ball that evening. And I was out with Gain. I don't know where we were, but he would take me out to, dinner and the movies and stuff like that, and wined and dine me like I was his high school, junior high girlfriend. Uh, so, but anyway, he pulled the car to the right of the road going up the hill leading to Walltown Street. He smelled like bourbon or whiskey and shoved his tongue down my mouth while we were parked by the side of the road. I might add that all of these car trips involved hips and thighs and crotch and touching and fondling. Um, he would tell me my body was beautiful. He would tell me I was developing. Uh, and I would just look out the window of the passenger side and talk about the girlfriends that I had crushes on and try to ignore him. I would go to London that summer. For some reason, Gain wanted me to come to School of the Arts a week before we went to London. And in retrospect, I don't know what that was, but I did. And my parents acquiesced. They thought I was in good hands. Um, he would check me out of the dorms. Uh, I think the worst evening during that time period was when I woke up while he was serving booze. That was a regular thing at the farm, and I was a child, but you know, if your professors are serving you booze, then you drink it. Um, and he woke up naked one day, walking around the house with a semi erection and would skinny dip in a pool that they had. And this was normal. And then we went to London, and he continued to try his seduction. He took me to see The Damnation of Faust. He took me to the Barbizon Palace. He took me to see the movie 1984 by Eurythmics. And once again, whenever we were in a dark theater or a dark car, is when he would start manhandling me. And I would just look out the side window of because I was always on that side. Um, 10th grade became a little bit more abusive. I tried to Pepe Le Pew him, meaning Penelope the cat always got away from Pepe, and I would just always try to get out of the situations. I was a regular at the farm with numerous people, um, but they became more and more abusive when I wasn't acquiescing to their sexual proclivities. I did Carmina Burana that year as a lead satyr. Um, I continued to be a soloist and lead dancer. I was clearly a prodigy, which I did not even know. We continued with the verbal abuse in class. During my final adjudication of my 10th grade year, uh, Gain Kutch, Mabel Robinson, and Diane Markham were in the dance faculty lounge, and it reeked of booze. And Kutch and Gain told me I needed to get fucked, that it would only improve my dancing, and that I had reached a standstill. I needed to go to New York and have an affair with a man. Um, so they sent me to the Jose Limon program for 3 weeks in New York. Um, and then I began to detest them. I hated what they were doing to me. I hated constantly being nervous and on guard. I felt like a child prostitute because I was the lead in all of their pieces. Um, so I came back a bit rebellious after that summer in New York City. I dyed my hair black. I wore black clothing. I was just doing my teenage rebellion was not against my parents. It was against Kutch and Gain. And Gain became increasingly infuriated at me and jealous of the fact that I was having high school girlfriends. So he would make fun of me in class, humiliate me, uh, isolate me. I was cast in his piece Jitneria in fall dance of that year. And on one night, Gain screamed from the back of DeMille Theater, Troy, you are alone on that stage like you're alone in this life. Everybody else get the fuck out of this theater except for Troy, Ray, and Andrew. Gain shut down the theater and made us do hip slides and grabbed us by the hair until my hips bled. I still have scars on my hips from that occasion. I would have to go back to the dorms and have them treated, only to have them scab over to be re-ripped the next day. At that point in time, during my next jury, Kutch and Gain wanted to put me on performance restriction because I was too rebellious. And although I was a straight A student, and their lead dancer and their prodigy, but this was my punishment. And Mark Dendy came to town, and he was like, I only want Troy as my lead in the piece that I'm doing for Winter Dance that year. And then, so Dundee trumped them in a way, but that was also another horror story, uh, which I don't want to discuss at this point in time. Um, I would continue on until the spring semester, and then my parents wanted me out. Uh, I graduated a year early. I didn't get my diploma officially until 1988, but I had left for college in 1987 with 2 credit out. Well, two, I had to do my senior English, which I did over the summer. And then I had to do some elective at Florida State in order to fulfill that arc. Um, this is not all inclusive. There were gifts, there were peacock feathers, there were silk scarves, there were teddy bears. Um, there was constant groping. Um, so I may have missed some things. But if I did, they're probably in my written statement. The Cutch and Gain awarded me a scholarship. I guess this was like their last attempt to keep me at school, and I declined it and left. My post NCS life would become perilous. Um, I've been in and out of therapy for 35 years post NCSA. I suffer from clinical depression, generalized anxiety disorder, PTSD, insomnia, night terrors. I have a problem with body dysmorphia, constantly feeling like I'm overweight because we were always told we were overweight and fat. Um, when I was a little boy, I always wanted to be a dancer. And Richard Gain and Richard Kutch took the absolute joy out of it for me. By the time I was in my early 20s, the joy of dance had died in me. And that still holds a heavy place in my heart. Um, all I wanted to do was to be given the chance to dance, and I hated it. I have suffered employment issues with agoraphobia. I've suffered 2 suicide attempts. I've endured multiple abusive relationships where I was the victim and beat up. Um, the impact on my life has been profound. And I hope that in seeing this, that you understand that this is not vengeance or screed. Um, I went forward with this because I just didn't want any other child to have to endure what myself and my peers and those that came before us and those that came after us did, uh, had to go through. In closing, the one thing, I wanted one thing, well, 3 things when I went into this: an apology, acknowledgement, and accountability. That's all I wanted. For someone to finally tell the truth. As the Buddha says, there are only 3 things you can't hide: the sun, the moon, and the truth. I went forward as a vanguard to tell my truth, and thankfully, I am blessed that 56 plus others have come in behind me and told their truths. We are not lying. There's no sense in making this up. And the one thing that I will never understand, that's me. When Kutch first started grooming me, I will never understand how an adult would find that attractive and how they would betray our confidence and destroy our lives without any onus to bear. Thank you.